What's up guys, Moonman here, and we are in Laurinburg, North Carolina at the old Hillside Cemetery to pay a visit to a strange and unusual one. Not the person, the circumstance. Let's go talk about it. Now the grave in question is of a Mr. Cancetto Farmica. He was an Italian American. He worked for the carnival, and in nearby McCall, South Carolina, they were setting up a carnival when a fight broke out with another carny named Giuseppe Latoro, also an Italian immigrant, over the pranks that Cancetto, who was a known prankster, was playing on him. And the fight escalated, and Giuseppe actually hit Cancetto over the head with a tent stake, and he was knocked unconscious. He was rushed down here to Laurinburg to the hospital, where he died about 12 hours later. We're coming up to his grave to go ahead and add some foreshadowing to the story. You can see Cancetto Farmica died April 28th, 1911, 23 years old. He was buried September 30th, 1972. That's 61 years if you didn't want to do the math. And I'm about to tell you why. Local funeral home, the McDougal Funeral Home, actually was in charge of embalming his body. And then his father, who worked for another carnival, his name was Vincenzo. He was also from Italy. He came and made a deposit on the funeral, but he couldn't pay for the whole thing, or for the burial. And he asked if he would hold the body until he came back to pay the rest. And they agreed to do this. Only thing is, Vincenzo never returned. He actually, a year later, in Alabama, was murdered in the street by being hit over the head. So he died in the same way. It's kind of weird. So instead of burying him, because it wasn't paid for, and also they didn't really know if his father would return, and they made the promise to him, they just kept him in storage in the basement or in the garage of the funeral home for a little bit, and then things kind of escalated a little bit from there. You can see somebody's been here not too long ago as they left some flowers. It is January right now, so it's pretty cold here in North Carolina, but yeah, anyway, the funeral home, there's a little interview that the grandson or son of the owner did, not like quite a few years after the whole incident. And he said that the family they actually received a letter from the family in Italy asking for the body to be sent back to Italy, or to like be buried in the Catholic cemetery here. But again, he wasn't buried until 1972, and they never once he sent back a letter saying that they owed, and it would cost quite a lot of money to ship a body across seas. He actually never heard from him again. So that didn't end up happening. So after the body actually mummified, they took a rope and they hung him up in the embalming room. And then a little later on, they put him in a box to be on display in there, like a glass box. And that was probably around 1939 or so. So that's already 28 years after he passed away. And again, it was 61 years, so a little more things happened. There's like lacking info for this, but at some point in time, there was like some like mummified baby twins that were also displayed with him, which is kind of weird, kind of gross. But anyways, at some point in time, they put him in the garage of the funeral home, and they would open it up a couple days a week for people to come see. And in the local town, it became like a thing. Let's go see, the mummy. And during this time, well, Cancetto Farmica is kind of, they thought it was, too exotic. It was, Italian. He was Italian American. So they, what did they associate with Italians back in, the early 1900s? I guess spaghetti. Thus, he was forever known as Spaghetti, the Mummy. So again, how did he end up here? Well, Mario Biaggi, he was a congressman from New York in 1972. He thought it was a travesty that this was happening. He was Italian American himself, or I think his parents were born there, and he thought it was a travesty. So him and others actually contacted the funeral home to see about how they could get him buried. Well, the funeral home was like, well, it's going to cost, and they wanted to charge a storage fee for every day for the 61 years that he was buried here. And they actually came to an agreement. Don't know what it was, how much it was, but they did end up being successful. That bill, by the way, was like $5,000 that they originally wanted, and that was in 1972 money. I don't know how much that'd be worth today, but it'd be a lot. And they came to an agreement to get him buried, and they all came down here. They buried him, and they were worried someone would dig him up, so they actually put 2 tons of concrete down on top of his grave. That way they can ensure that he would never be dug up. And there's conflicting things of whether or not when he was in the funeral home, if he was, if they were charging money for people to come see him. The family, the McDougal family, they protested the idea of him being, well, some of them did, protested the idea of him being buried, because they had a lot of the younger ones that always knew him, because he was always in their house or in their funeral home, like, their entire life. Now he lies here forever, Laurinburg, North Carolina, Scotland County, Cancetto Farmica, better known, and probably forever known, as Spaghetti, the funeral home mummy. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. It's Moon Man. He's out.